So, if you're on the path to becoming a BCBA or a BCABA, you've definitely heard the buzz about some pretty big changes coming in 2027. And yeah, it can feel like a lot to wrap your head around, but don't worry. In this explainer, we're going to break it all down, what's changing, why it's changing, and exactly what you need to do to make sure you stay on the right track. Let's get into it.
Okay, first things first. Get out your calendar, pull up your phone, whatever you use, and circle this date. January 1st, 2027. This is the hard deadline. This is the day the new certification requirements officially kick in. Pretty much everything we're about to talk about hinges on this single date. You can think of this date as a huge fork in the road for every single student. You're either on the path to finish everything under the current 5th edition rules, or you're going to have to start planning for the new 2027 standards. So the big question you need to ask yourself is, which path are you actually on?
And to help you figure that out, here's our game plan for today. We'll start with that deadline, really nail it down. Then we'll compare the old versus the new rules for both your coursework and your fieldwork. We'll even get into why these changes are happening. And then we'll wrap it all up with a clear, straightforward action plan for you.
Okay, section 1, that deadline. Now, here's the crucial detail. It's not about when you sit for the exam, or even just when you submit your application. The date that matters is December 31st, 2026. Your complete exam application has to be submitted and approved by the BACB by that day. If it's not, you're automatically, no exceptions, under the new 2027 rules. So yeah, it really just boils down to your timeline. Either you hustle and get everything done and approved before the ball drops at the end of 2026, or you need to pivot your entire plan to meet those 2027 requirements. There's really no middle ground here.
All right, let's switch gears and talk about the academic side of things, your coursework. Now, the good news is the total number of hours you need, that's 315 for BCBAs, that's not changing. But the way those hours are organized, that's a whole different story.
So, the foundational stuff is getting a major restructure. Under the current rules, you've got this one big 90-hour block that covers all the philosophical and conceptual content. Well, the 2027 standards are splitting that up. Now it's going to be 2 separate 45-hour standalone courses, one just for basic principles and a whole other one for theory and philosophy.
And here's another key shift. You know that 30-hour requirement for supervision and management? That's getting beefed up. It's becoming a 45-hour standalone course in Organizational Behavior Management, or OBM. That's a pretty clear signal that the field is putting a much stronger emphasis on these skills.
So the big takeaway here is that the 2027 standards are a lot more prescriptive. They're telling you exactly what courses you need. 6 specific standalone courses. This means if you miss that 2026 deadline, you can't just assume your old coursework is good enough. You might actually need to take extra bridge courses to fit into this new, more rigid structure. Okay, we've covered the books. Now let's talk about the other huge piece of the puzzle, your fieldwork. These changes really affect the day-to-day reality of how you're going to get all those supervised hours in.
Now, here's a change that actually gives you a bit more flexibility, which is nice. The max number of fieldwork hours you can log in a single month is going up, from 130 to 160. What does that mean for you? Well, it means you could potentially finish up your fieldwork a little bit faster.
Okay, listen up, because this next change is absolutely critical for your paperwork. The old rule was all about frequency. You needed at least 1 observation per month. The new 2027 rule is all about duration. You need a cumulative total of 60 minutes of observation per month. So one 60-minute observation is fine, but so are 4 15-minute ones. It's the total time that counts now.
And you can see the practical impact of this right here on the forms. The 2022 form on the left, pretty straightforward. But look at the 2027 form on the right. It now has separate fields for both hours and minutes. It's literally designed to capture that new duration-based rule. You'll be tracking your time in a whole new way.
So the big question is, why? Why is all this happening? A lot of the conversation has revolved around the changes to the diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI content. And the BACB has been pretty open about their reasoning for this shift.
In an official podcast, the CEO of the BACB, Dr. Jim Carr, he addressed this head-on. He basically said the board was really disappointed about having to make these changes. He framed the decision not as some kind of shift in their values, but as a reluctant, necessary move to deal with some serious external risks.
And according to the BACB, that risk was a 3-part problem. First, a bunch of new state laws started popping up that explicitly restricted or even banned DEI content in university courses. Second, those laws created a real threat that states could refuse to accept BACB certification as a path to getting licensed. And third, because of a legal principle called sovereign immunity, the BACB has basically no power to sue a state that does that.
So what's taking the place of that explicit DEI requirement? Well, the new 2027 standards now require content on cultural and contextual responsiveness, and it's built right into the ethics and the OBM coursework. The BACB points out that while, this is different from what they originally wanted, it's still a big step up from the old standards, where this kind of content wasn't explicitly required at all.
Okay, that's a lot of context, I know. But now, let's get to the important part. How do you navigate all this? This is where we shift from just understanding the rules to actually taking action. It's time to build your personal plan.
Your very first step, your top priority, should be to have a serious talk with your university advisor. And don't just walk in cold, go in prepared with these key questions. Does our current program already meet the new 2027 standards? If not, what bridge courses would I need to take? And be brutally honest about your timeline. How long will this stuff really take? Have you built in a buffer for, life?
So what if you're one of those people who's going to be cutting it super close to that 2026 deadline? The BACB's advice here is crystal clear. The absolute safest thing you can do is to plan to meet both sets of requirements. That way you've got maximum flexibility and you're totally prepared no matter what happens.
All right, let's pull this all together. We're going to wrap this up with a simple, final action plan that you can use to move forward and feel confident about your path.
First off, this document right here is your new best friend. It's the official 2027 BCBA Requirements Transition Guide. Download it from the BACB website, read it, know it. It has all the nitty-gritty details, and it's an absolutely essential tool for your planning.
Okay, your action plan really just has 3 steps. Number 1, assess your timeline. Get real with yourself about whether you can realistically meet that December 31st, 2026 approval deadline. 2, talk to your advisor. Use those questions we covered to map out your academic plan. And 3, document everything. I mean everything. If you're anywhere near that deadline, seriously consider tracking your fieldwork using both the 2022 and the 2027 forms just to be safe.
We started this whole thing by talking about a fork in the road. You now have a map of both of those paths, and you've got a compass to help guide you. The requirements are changing, for sure, but your ultimate goal hasn't changed at all. So the only question left to answer is, what's your next step?